21st November 1970, 0218 ICT, Sơn Tây Prison Camp. 37 kilometers west of Hà Nội, rotor wash flattens the grass as 6 helicopters drop into North Vietnam's most defended airspace. 56 U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers pour from the birds with one mission: free 61 American prisoners of war from a compound the Pentagon believes no raid can reach. The package includes approximately 28 aircraft, rehearsed 170 times, timed to the second. 27 minutes later, the raiders lift off with 0 killed in action. They also lift off with 0 prisoners. Sơn Tây stands empty. The POWs moved 4 months earlier after monsoon flooding. Washington calls it failure. Hanoi calls it shock. The math says rescue flopped, but every American captive's life changes overnight. The myth begins in the debriefs: a dry hole raid, wasted training, bad intelligence. Newspaper editors in November 1970 frame Sơn Tây as proof that special operations cannot operate deep in denied territory. Critics point to the empty cells and ask why 56 men risked their lives for nothing. Pentagon briefers repeat the line, "No POWs recovered, mission incomplete." The narrative hardens into doctrine: never again try a rescue this deep, this complex. But the myth ignores what happens 23 kilometers east at Hoa Lo Prison in downtown Hanoi. Within 48 hours, North Vietnamese guards consolidate every POW into centralized camps. The shock of American rotor wash 37 kilometers from the capital rewrites captivity for 591 men. Operation Ivory Coast, codenamed Kingpin by the Air Force, launches from 2 Thai bases on the night of 20th to 21st November 1970. Takli Royal Thai Air Force Base stages the command and control HH-53 Cherry and 5 HH-3E Jolly Green helicopters at 2340 ICT. Udon Royal Thai Air Force Base provides A-1 Sky Raider Sandy escorts and combat search and rescue backup. The mission architecture stacks 3 layers: diversion, suppression, and extraction. Navy carrier aircraft from USS Ranger and USS Oriskany hit surface-to-air missile sites and simulate strikes on Haiphong to pull MiG interceptors south. Air Force F-105, Wild Weasels, and F-4 Phantoms suppress North Vietnamese air defenses along the ingress corridor. C-130, Combat Talon electronic warfare aircraft jam early warning radars, while an EC-121 orbits over Laos for command relay. The ground element divides into 3 groups: Greenleaf, Red Wine, and Blue Boy. Colonel Arthur D. Bull Simons commands all ground forces. 56 Special Forces volunteers, hand-picked from 5th Special Forces Group and Fort Bragg. Brigadier General Leroy J. Manor, USAF, commands the entire Joint Task Force from the HH-53 Command Helicopter Cherry. Lieutenant Colonel Elliot P. Bud Sidner Jr. leads the 22-man Red Wine assault team. Planners rehearse the raid 170 times at Eglin Air Force Base Auxiliary Field using a full-scale Sơn Tây mock-up. Timing tolerances run to 5-second windows. Helicopters must land simultaneously to mass firepower and achieve surprise. The insert plan calls for 1 HH-3E, call sign Banana, to deliberately crash land inside the compound courtyard. Simons rides Banana to guarantee his assault force hits the cells first. 2 HH-3Es, Apple 1 and Apple 2, drop Red Wine outside the south wall. Apple 3 inserts Blue Boy at a nearby security position mistaken on imagery for a secondary school, but actually housing North Vietnamese guards. Blue Boy eliminates approximately 40 guards in 4 minutes, ensuring no reaction force interrupts the compound assault. Inside the wire, Red Wine blows 28 cell doors with explosives and clears the structures room by room. The raiders find beds, mosquito nets, and recent waste, but no Americans. At 0245 ICT, Simons radios negative items and orders withdrawal. The package egresses northwest into Laos, refuels from HC-130 tankers, and recovers in Thailand by dawn. Total time on target 27 minutes. Total U.S. casualties: 1 sprained ankle, 1 broken ankle during landing. Not a training exercise scaled up, but an industrial production system that delivered a penetration package to the enemy capital. The mechanism worked, the intelligence did not. Yet the shock of 6 helicopters landing inside North Vietnam's air defense umbrella travels faster than any extraction. The Sơn Tây training cycle begins in May 1970, when Defense Intelligence Agency analysts identify the camp through SR-71 and Buffalo Hunter drone imagery. By July, CIA and DIA confirm 61 probable POWs at coordinates 21 degrees 8 minutes north north, 105 degrees 30 minutes east, based on courtyard exercise patterns and signal intercepts. Brigadier General Donald D. Blackburn, Special Assistant for Counterinsurgency and Special Activities, briefs Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Admiral Thomas H. Maurer on feasibility. Maurer approves planning on 10 August 1970, but restricts the task force to fewer than 100 personnel to preserve secrecy. Manor and Simons select volunteers without revealing the target, only that the mission involves high risk and probable combat in denied territory. The force moves to Auxiliary Field 3 at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, in late August. Engineers build a full-scale replica of Sơn Tây using declassified imagery, matching every building, wall, and tree down to 1 meter accuracy. The compound measures 60 by 80 meters. Tight quarters for 6 helicopters and 56 troops moving simultaneously. Rehearsals begin in daylight, progress to dusk, then full darkness with all navigation lights off. Each iteration adds complexity: live fire, demolition charges, prisoner handling drills. Simons insists on total realism. Blanks are forbidden. Every round must be live. The medical team practices triage and evacuation with simulated casualties who scream and resist. Helicopter pilots practice the crash landing sequence in Banana until the maneuver becomes muscle memory. HH-3E pilot Major Herbert Zander flies the deliberate controlled crash into the courtyard dozens of times without injuring his crew. Apple flight pilots synchronize their insertions to 5-second tolerances using only visual cues and radio calls. Ground teams drill transitions from helicopter to breach point in under 10 seconds. The demolition sequence, blow the doors, clear the rooms, consolidate prisoners, runs through 170 full-dress rehearsals. Each rehearsal generates after-action corrections, adjust stack spacing, shift breach charges, refine withdrawal corridors. By mid-November, the task force executes the raid under simulated surface-to-air, missile fire, and pyrotechnic distractions without a single timing failure. The training model mirrors wartime production lines. Repetition eliminates variance. Every man becomes interchangeable in his role. Sidner later recalls that his assault team could execute the mission in their sleep by departure day. Intelligence updates continue through October, as Buffalo Hunter drones fly multiple sorties over Sơn Tây. An SR-71 overflight in late October 1970 captured imagery, showing fresh laundry and personnel in the compound. The intelligence community assesses high confidence that POWs remain in place. But monsoon flooding in July had already forced North Vietnamese guards to relocate the prisoners to Dong Hoi Camp, then to Hà Nội. Photo interpreters mistake guard activity for POW activity. The laundry belongs to the cadre maintaining the empty facility. The failure lives in the intelligence cycle, not the training architecture. Manor approves final mission execution on 18 November after weather forecasts predict clear skies over Sơn Tây. The package deploys from Eglin to Thailand on 19 November, staging overnight at Takli and Udon. On the afternoon of 20th November, Simons gathers the raiders and reveals the target for the first time. We're going to rescue 61 Americans. We're going 23 miles west of Hanoi. The briefing lasts 14 minutes. No one asks to withdraw. Wheels up occurs at 23:56 ICT, 170 rehearsals distilled into one real-world execution. The training system delivered flawless muscle memory and synchronized choreography. Not hope that intelligence might improve, but certainty that when boots hit mud, every man knows his exact move. The production miracle lives in the training loop. Impossible became routine through volume. While intelligence analysts debated POW locations, Simons made the raid itself undebatable. Not guesswork, but industrial repetition that turned 56 individuals into one organism. Not bravery alone, but a manufactured capability that made deep penetration as reliable as any other Air Force sortie. The rehearsals worked. Hanoi noticed. The air package for Sơn Tây coordinates approximately 28 aircraft across 4 mission profiles: diversion, suppression, insertion, and extraction. Navy Task Force 77 launches the diversion wave at 0130 ICT from USS Ranger and USS Oriskany in the Gulf of Tonkin. 16 A-6 intruders and A-7 Corsairs simulate a major strike on Haiphong, pulling North Vietnamese MiG-21 interceptors and SAM batteries toward the coast. The feint forces Hanoi Air Defense Headquarters to commit radar coverage and interceptor sorties away from the western approach corridor. Simultaneously, 5 F-105G Wild Weasels ingress from Laos at low altitude. to suppress SA-2 guideline surface-to-air missile sites along Route 6 near Sơn Tây. The Weasels carry AGM-78 Standard Arm anti-radiation missiles. Any radar that illuminates the helicopter flight gets a missile in return. 4 F-4D Phantoms from the 432nd Tactical Reconnaissance Wing provide MiG combat air patrol, orbiting between the helicopters and Hanoi's Phuc Yen and Gia Lam air bases. 1 EC-121. Warning Star remains on station over northern Laos, relaying communications and monitoring North Vietnamese radio traffic. The command helicopter, the HH-53 callsign Cherry, carries manna and a full tactical operations center, radios, crypto gear, and direct links to 7th Air Force headquarters. Cherry orbits 60 kilometers west of Sơn Tây, ready to abort or redirect if MiG scramble toward the target. 3 HC-130P combat shadow tankers loiter over Laos at staggered altitudes for pre-strike and post-strike refueling. The helicopter flight, 5 HH-3E Jolly Greens and 1 HH-53, refuels twice inbound, extending range from 400 to 720 kilometers. 2 A-1E Sky Raiders, callsign Sandy 1 and Sandy 2, escort the helicopter package for close air support and combat search and rescue. The A-1s carry napalm, cluster munitions, and 20mm cannon. Their slow speed matches helicopter air speeds, allowing tight formation. Navigation depends on terrain masking. The helicopters fly 30 meters above ground level through karst valleys to avoid radar detection. The flight crosses the North Vietnamese border at 0158 ICT without triggering air defense alerts. At 0215 ICT, the flight pops up to 150 meters for final approach into Sơn Tây. 2 F-4 Phantoms drop flares over the compound at 0217 ICT, illuminating the target for exactly 14 seconds. Banana crash lands in the courtyard 1 second after. The flares ignite. Apple 1 and Apple 2 touch down outside the south wall at 0218 ICT, synchronized within 3 seconds of each other. Apple 3 mistakenly lands 400 meters south at the secondary school, actually a barracks housing approximately 40 North Vietnamese soldiers. Blue Boy exits Apple 3 and engages the compound in a 4-minute firefight, eliminating the guard force before it can alert higher headquarters. Sandy 1 orbits overhead and reports no ground fire directed at the helicopters. Total tactical surprise achieved. Cherry monitors North Vietnamese air defense radio nets. Manna hears confusion, but no organized response for 18 minutes. At 0236 ICT, Hanoi orders 2 MiG-21s to scramble from Phuc Yen Air Base. The F-4 MiG cap intercepts the bogies climbing through 3,000 meters. The MiGs abort and return to base without engaging. Simons completes the compound search and radios negative items. At 0243 ICT, Banana, too damaged to fly, is destroyed in place with thermite grenades. The remaining 5 helicopters extract all raiders by 0245 ICT and egress northwest into Laos. Post-strike refueling occurs over the plain of Jars at 0320 ICT without incident. All aircraft recover to Thai bases by 0450 ICT. Every aircraft hit every mark. We put 56 men in the right place at the right time. The synchronization window held for 27 minutes across approximately 28 aircraft and 4 mission types. North Vietnamese air defenses never achieved a coordinated response. The package moved faster than the enemy decision cycle. The production miracle lives in the deconfliction. No mid-air collisions, no fratricide, no navigation errors despite flying 30 meters above hostile terrain in darkness. Fighter escorts never fired a shot. Their presence alone suppressed the MiG threat. Not luck, but pre-planned geometry that stacked aircraft in 3 dimensions without a single conflict. Not individual heroism, but system integration. Each element invisible to the enemy until the entire package committed simultaneously. The Navy feint kept MiGs in the wrong sector. The Wild Weasels kept SAMs silent. The helicopters arrived undetected. While North Vietnam possessed formidable defenses, America demonstrated it could assemble a package that made those defenses irrelevant. Not overwhelming force, but synchronized precision. Approximately 28 aircraft became one weapon system. Banana hits Sơn Tây courtyard at 0218 ICT with a controlled crash that shatters the left landing gear and bends the rotor mast. Pilot Major Herbert Zander holds the HH-3E level through ground impact. All 14 Greenleaf Raiders exit through the side doors in 9 seconds. We put the aircraft exactly where we trained to put it. Simons leads his command group directly to the central cell. Block, a two-story masonry building, the intelligence photos label Building 1. Demolition specialists tape C4 charges to 12 cell doors on the ground floor, while riflemen provide security at every corner. The charges detonate simultaneously at 0219 ICT. The concussion blows out window frames across the compound. Assault teams flow through the breached doors using pre-assigned room numbers. Each man knows his exact cell without verbal commands. Inside, the raiders find empty wooden bed frames, tin cups, and mosquito nets still hanging from ceiling hooks. Building 1 holds no prisoners, no guards, no signs of recent American presence. Simons redirects his teams to buildings 2 and 3, barracks structures flanking the east wall, more demolitions, more breaches, more empty rooms. Outside the south wall, Sidner's red wine element clears the outer compound perimeter and secures the helicopter landing zone. 22 Special Forces soldiers establish a defensive arc covering 180 degrees of approach routes. No North Vietnamese reaction force appears. The nearest military installation sits 5 kilometers east, and Apple III's engagement at the secondary school has already neutralized that threat. Inside the wire, Simons orders a systematic search. Every building, every storage room, every latrine. The medical team sets up a casualty collection point near Banana, ready to treat wounded POWs and administer morphine for shock. No casualties arrive. The aid station remains unused. At 0228 ICT, 10 minutes into the assault, Simons confirms the compound contains 0 American prisoners. Radio discipline holds. Simons transmits negative items to Manor in Cherry, using brevity codes rehearsed 170 times. Manor orders withdrawal. The mission clock has already consumed 10 of the planned 27 minutes. Greenleaf rigs Banana for destruction. Thermite grenades in the cockpit. Demolition charges on the avionics. The helicopter burns at 0232 ICT. Flames prevent the North Vietnamese from recovering classified radio equipment. Red wine collapses the defensive perimeter and moves to the Apple flight landing zone in a rehearsed sequence. Apple 1 and Apple 2 touch down at 0236 ICT. All 22 red wine raiders board in 40 seconds. 4 kilometers south, Blue Boy finishes its engagement at the barracks compound and moves to Apple 3's pickup zone. The secondary school turns out to house a reinforced platoon of North Vietnamese soldiers, approximately 40 troops, billeted in 2 buildings. Blue Boy eliminates approximately 40 guards in close-quarters battle, ensuring no alert reaches Hanoi during the critical insertion window. Apple 3 extracts Blue Boy at 0240 ICT, with all personnel accounted for. Simons boards Apple 2 at 0244 ICT, the last American to leave North Vietnamese soil. The withdrawal follows the reverse ingress route, northwest into Laos at treetop altitude. We executed the mission exactly as rehearsed. The only variable was the absence of our men. Total time on target, 27 minutes, matching the training standard within 30 seconds. U.S. casualties. 1 soldier sprains his ankle exiting Banana. 1 helicopter crew chief breaks his ankle during the controlled crash. No gunshot wounds, no burns, no personnel left behind. North Vietnamese casualties, approximately 40 killed at the secondary school, 0 at the main compound. The ground execution demonstrates that Special Operations Forces can assault a hardened target deep inside denied territory and withdraw without loss. The production miracle lives in the discipline. Despite finding no POWs, no raider breaks radio silence with frustration or confusion. Simons maintains tactical control through the shock of the empty compound. Withdrawal occurs on schedule, without deviation. Not emotional reaction, but mechanical execution. The training loop prevented improvisation that could have caused casualties or compromise. The raiders clear 28 rooms in 15 minutes, moving through the compound with the same precision they demonstrated at Eglin. While the mission fails its stated objective, it succeeds at proving the capability. Not a desperate gamble, but a controlled demonstration that America can land 56 men anywhere in North Vietnam. The empty cells shock the raiders, but Rotor Wash, 37 kilometers from Hanoi, shocks the North Vietnamese leadership. The Sơn Tây intelligence failure begins in July 1970, when monsoon flooding forces North Vietnamese guards to relocate 61 American POWs to Dong Hoi, 25 kilometers southeast. Buffalo Hunter drones, Ryan Model 147 reconnaissance UAVs, continue flying multiple sorties over Sơn Tây through October, but photo interpreters misread the imagery. Fresh laundry hanging in the compound courtyard on early October, imagery appears to confirm POW presence. The Defense Intelligence Agency assesses high confidence that Americans remain at Sơn Tây based on observed movement patterns and maintained infrastructure. But the laundry belongs to the guard cadre tasked with maintaining the empty facility, a deception or bureaucratic inertia never definitively determined. No human intelligence sources operate inside Sơn Tây. CIA has no agents in the village or among the prison staff. Signal intercepts from National Security Agency listening posts in Thailand detect radio traffic referencing Sơn Tây but provide no clarity on occupant status. An SR-71 Blackbird overflight in late October 1970 captured imagery at 80,000 feet. Analysts count personnel in the compound but cannot distinguish POWs from guards at that altitude and resolution. The intelligence community operates under standing guidance to avoid risky low-altitude reconnaissance that might alert North Vietnam to American interest in the camp. Manor requests updated imagery on 15th November, 6 days before the raid, but weather over North Vietnam grounds reconnaissance sorties. The final mission brief on 18th November uses early October photography as the most recent confirmed intelligence. By then, the POWs have been gone for 4 months. The North Vietnamese relocate the prisoners in mid-July after water from the Song Khao River floods the cell blocks and creates unsanitary conditions. Initially, guards moved the Americans to Jong Hoi Camp, a smaller facility east of Sơn Tây. Within 2 weeks, higher headquarters orders consolidation. The POWs move again to camps in the Hanoi area, primarily Hoa Lo prison. Some prisoners transfer to camps at Dan Hu and Gia Lam, depending on their interrogation status and medical condition. North Vietnamese operational security improves after the relocations. Guards receive orders to maintain Sơn Tây as if still occupied. Cadre continue daily routines, hang laundry, and avoid patterns that might signal abandonment to American reconnaissance. The deception succeeds, or the DIA simply lacks the granularity to detect absence versus presence. Manor and Simons receive the intelligence estimates and proceed based on the best available assessment. No commander waits for perfect intelligence. The window for a successful raid depends on POW health, camp security, and seasonal weather. Waiting for confirmation might mean losing the prisoners to execution or relocation beyond reach. The decision to launch reflects calculated risk. Better to attempt rescue with 70% confidence than wait for 100% certainty that may never come. Post-mission analysis identifies the intelligence failure but assigns no individual blame. The photo interpretation methods remain sound. The North Vietnamese simply maintain a convincing facade. We had the best intelligence the system could provide, it just wasn't good enough. The production miracle meets its limit. Training and synchronization cannot overcome incorrect target data. Ivory Coast proves that even perfect execution fails without accurate intelligence on enemy dispositions. Yet the mission succeeds at demonstrating American reach. The raid's impact does not depend on finding POWs. North Vietnamese leadership concludes that no camp is safe if located within helicopter range of the border. Within 48 hours, orders go out to consolidate all POWs into camps inside Hanoi's urban core. Dispersed prisons at Sơn Tây, Dan Hu, and rural sites close permanently. Centralizing the prisoners improves their treatment. Larger camps mean more oversight, more medical access, and more communication among captives. The intelligence failure produces an accidental strategic success. While Manor and Simons cannot rescue 61 men from Sơn Tây, their raid forces north. Vietnam to consolidate 591 POWs into conditions that reduce mortality and abuse. The empty compound does not mean wasted effort, it means the shock of American capability travels through a noise command structure. Not precision intelligence, but demonstrated reach. Even a dry hole raid changes enemy behavior. The production miracle shifts from extraction to deterrence. The raid that finds no one protects everyone. 22nd November 1970, 1400 ICT Hoa Lo Prison in central Hanoi. Guards order American POWs to pack their belongings and prepare for immediate relocation. Navy Commander James Stockdale and Air Force Colonel Robinson Reisner, senior ranking officers among the captives, receive no explanation for the sudden movement. Within 48 hours, consolidation began. Over the following weeks, the majority moved to Hoa Lo, Gia Lam, and Dan Hu. The 591 who would later return in 1973 gradually concentrated in facilities within Hanoi's municipal boundaries. The consolidation eliminates smaller, isolated facilities where abuse and interrogation occur with minimal oversight. Conditions improve measurably. Centralized camps allow better medical care, regular food distribution, and enforced Geneva Convention protocols under international scrutiny. Visibility and scrutiny increased after consolidation. POW accounts note better medical access and reduced isolation. POWs reported fewer deaths and better care after consolidation, as centralized medical facilities provide antibiotics and surgical care. The consolidation also enables better communication among prisoners. Larger camps mean more opportunities for covert signaling, morale coordination, and resistance leadership. Stockdale organizes a unified command structure once the population concentrates at Hoa Lo. Senior officers establish discipline and counter-interrogation protocols. The North Vietnamese inadvertently create the conditions for stronger POW cohesion by grouping captives together. Before Sun Tai, isolation and dispersal prevent collective action. After Sun Tai, the Americans operate as a unit. The guards moved us in a panic. Suddenly we were all together, and that changed everything. The raid's psychological impact on North Vietnamese leadership manifests in the consolidation order. Hanoi concludes that dispersed camps invite American raids. Centralized facilities inside the capital's air defense umbrella become the new doctrine. No camp within 50 kilometers of the Laos border remains operational after November 1970. Sun Tai closes permanently. The compound becomes a training site for North Vietnamese guards, then abandons entirely by 1972. The consolidation order reflects North Vietnam's assessment that America can execute deep penetration raids at will. Even though Sun Tai yields no rescued prisoners, the raid demonstrates capability that forces a strategic shift. The production miracle lives in the deterrent effect. 6 helicopters and 56 men change policy for 591 captives. North Vietnamese interrogators reduce torture frequency after the consolidation. The risk of American reprisal raids deters the worst abuses. POWs notice the shift, beatings decline, cell conditions improve, and guards show reluctance to escalate violence. The Sun Tai raid becomes leverage without firing a shot at the actual target audience. Washington does not plan for this outcome, but the operational effect exceeds the tactical objective. Manor and Simons intend to rescue 61 men. Instead, they alter the captivity conditions for 591. The empty compound at Son Tai becomes secondary to the full compounds at Hanoi. Rota, Wash 37 kilometers from the capital, echoes louder than any extraction. Post-war interviews with North Vietnamese officers confirm that the raid shocked the leadership and forced re-evaluation of POW camp security. Hanoi's military command debates whether to expect follow-on raids. The uncertainty paralyzes offensive planning against isolated camps. By December 1970, all American POWs reside in facilities that U.S. intelligence can monitor via satellite and signal intercepts. The consolidation makes future rescue attempts more difficult, but also makes POW welfare more transparent. North Vietnam trades security for visibility. Centralized camps offer better protection against raids, but invite international oversight. The production miracle delivers an outcome no planner anticipated. Failed rescue becomes successful deterrence. Not 61 men freed in one night, but 591 men protected for the duration of the war. The shock of American capability, not the success of American execution, determines POW outcomes after Sun Tai. While Manor lifts off from an empty compound, every prisoner still in North Vietnam benefits from the Rota Wash. Not the raid that succeeded, but the raid that proved America could reach anywhere. And that proof, not extraction, changed everything. The math says failure. 0 POWs recovered from 61 expected. The debriefs in Thailand on 22nd November focus on intelligence gaps and missed opportunities. But in Hanoi, guards consolidate prisoners at triple speed. Rota Wash still echoes. The production miracle does not live in the compound. It lives in the shock, not what the raiders took out, but what they proved could be done. 23rd November 1970, Washington, D.C., Defense Secretary Melvin Laird briefs the press on Operation Ivory Coast at the Pentagon. Reporters demand answers. Why raid an empty camp? Why risk 56 lives? Why expose classified capabilities? Laird responds that the mission demonstrates American commitment to POWs and sends a clear message to Hanoi. We tried, and we proved we can go anywhere in North Vietnam. The narrative shifts from tactical failure to strategic signaling within 72 hours. Congress debates the raid's wisdom, but no legislator questions the execution. Approximately 28 aircraft, 56 men, 0 killed, flawless synchronization. The production miracle becomes a case study at every U.S. military staff college. How to plan, rehearse, and execute a joint special operation in denied territory. Special Forces recruitment surges in 1971. Volunteers cite Sơn Tây as proof that elite units attempt the impossible. The 170 rehearsals at Eglin Air Force Base established the template for future hostage rescue missions: Iran in 1980, Panama in 1989, Somalia in 1993. Every subsequent special operation inherits the Sơn Tây training model: full-scale mock-ups, live-fire rehearsals, multi-service integration, and 5-second timing tolerances. The Joint Special Operations Command, established in 1980, traces its doctrinal lineage directly to Manor and Simons. But the immediate payoff lives in North Vietnam, not the United States. By 25 November 1970, every outlying POW camp within helicopter range of Laos closes or relocates. Centralization into Hanoi's urban core creates logistical challenges for North Vietnamese prison administrators. More mouths to feed, more guards required, more international visibility. Visibility and scrutiny increased after consolidation. POW accounts note better medical access and reduced isolation. POWs reported fewer deaths and better care after consolidation. American prisoners begin receiving mail more regularly after consolidation. North Vietnam allows limited correspondence to demonstrate compliance with international law. The consolidation also enables covert communication networks among POWs, tap codes, notes hidden in laundry, whispered messages during exercise periods. Colonel John Flynn, the senior ranking officer after 1971, organizes a resistance structure that coordinates responses to interrogation and maintains morale. The structure depends on proximity. Dispersed camps made unified resistance impossible. Centralized camps make it routine. Sơn Tây rota wash indirectly creates the conditions for organized POW defiance against their captors. In 1972, North Vietnam begins releasing selected prisoners as propaganda gestures. The releases occur only from the centralized Hanoi camps, where international observers can verify treatment. No prisoner releases occur from isolated rural camps after November 1970 because those camps no longer exist. The Sơn Tây raid, by forcing consolidation, makes North Vietnam's POW population visible and accountable. The production miracle delivers leverage. Hanoi cannot hide abuse when 591 men live under international scrutiny. Torture continues, but systematically rather than arbitrarily. Interrogators follow protocols to avoid incidents that might provoke another American raid. The deterrent effect lasts until the Paris Peace Accords in January 1973. When Operation Homecoming begins in February 1973, every released POW passes through Hanoi's centralized camps. The same facilities forced into existence by the Sơn Tây raid. Returning prisoners credit improved conditions after November 1970 to the consolidation policy. Post-war debriefs reveal that POWs understood the Sơn Tây raid's significance within days. Guards spoke openly about the American helicopters and the leadership's panic. The psychological impact on captors matters as much as physical rescue. North Vietnamese officers later admit that the raid shocked their confidence in camp security and forced a complete reassessment of POW doctrine. Manor and Simons never rescue a single prisoner, but their raid alters captivity for 591 men. The empty compound at Sơn Tây becomes less important than the full compounds in Hanoi. Rota wash echoes across every cell in North Vietnam. The production miracle scales beyond the target. 56 men change outcomes for 10 times that number. Training discipline, package synchronization, and ground execution combine into a capability demonstration that reshapes enemy behavior. Not individual heroism, but system integration. 170 rehearsals manufacture a result no single soldier could achieve. The raid proves that deep penetration special operations are feasible, repeatable, and survivable. That proof travels through Hanoi faster than any helicopter. Within 1 week, North Vietnam consolidates its POW population. Within 1 year, conditions improve measurably. Within 3 years, every American prisoner returns home through centralized camps that exist because of 6 helicopters on one November night. The tactical failure becomes strategic success, not by rescuing prisoners, but by forcing their captors to move them into better conditions. The production miracle lives in the unintended consequence. Shock matters more than extraction. Manor's package penetrates North Vietnam's most defended airspace without loss. Simons's raiders execute a 27-minute assault with 0 killed. The synchronization holds across approximately 28 aircraft and 4 mission profiles. The training system delivers flawless muscle memory under combat stress. Every element performs exactly as rehearsed 170 times at Eglin. The only variable beyond American control, intelligence on POW location, fails. Yet the mission succeeds at proving capability, and that capability changes everything for 591 men. Not the prisoners lifted out of Sơn Tây, but the prisoners consolidated into Hanoi. Not the cells breached on 21st November, but the cells monitored for the next 27 months. The rotor wash matters more than the rescue. Impossible became routine, and routine became deterrence. While the raiders fly home empty-handed, every American captive's fate shifts because North Vietnam knows America can reach any compound any night. The production miracle delivers what no planner anticipated, a raid that finds no one protects everyone. Shock, not extraction, decides outcomes. And that shock begins with rotor wash 37 kilometers from Hanoi. The impossible became routine. The routine became leverage. Not 61 freed, but 591 protected. The math changes when capability becomes deterrence. Every POW's life changes because 6 helicopters proved America could land anywhere. Rotor wash echoes louder than any extraction ever could. Operation Ivory Coast closes its official after-action review on 15 December 1970 with classified findings distributed to Joint Chiefs and National Security Council. The review concludes that execution was flawless, intelligence was flawed, and the mission achieved strategic effects despite tactical failure. Manor receives the Distinguished Service Cross. Simons receives the same. All 56 raiders receive Bronze Stars with V device. Helicopter crews receive Distinguished Flying Crosses. No public ceremony occurs. The decorations remain classified until 1973, when the mission's details become public during Operation Homecoming. The task force disbands in January 1971. Personnel return to their units with orders never to discuss the mission. Simons retires from the Army in 1971 and dies in 1979 without seeing the full legacy of his raid. Manor continues in Air Force leadership roles, eventually commanding 14th Air Force before retirement in 1975. The Sơn Tây training model migrates into doctrine. Joint Special Operations Command inherits the 170 rehearsal standard and full-scale mock-up methodology. The failed raid at Desert One, Iran, in April 1980 validates Sơn Tây lessons in reverse. Inadequate rehearsal, poor integration, and compromised execution produce catastrophic results. After Desert One, the Pentagon mandates Sơn Tây-level training for all hostage rescue missions. By 1990, every U.S. Special Operations unit practices the Ivory Coast model. Build the target. Rehearse until flawless, integrate multi-service assets, execute with zero tolerance for improvisation. The production miracle becomes institutional. Impossible missions become routine through volume and discipline. In North Vietnam, the POW consolidation policy remains in effect until Operation Homecoming begins in February 1973. 591 American prisoners return home, passing through the same Hanoi camps created by the post-Sơn Tây consolidation. Post-war interviews confirm that conditions improved after November 1970. Better food, reduced torture, more medical access. The improvement correlates directly with centralization and international oversight enabled by the Sơn Tây shock. No POW credits the raid with direct rescue, but dozens credit it with changing the trajectory of their captivity. The rotor wash on 21st November 1970 echoes through 27 months of improved treatment. Sơn Tây legacy lives in capability demonstration, not what America rescued, but what America proved it could reach. The empty compound mattered less than the shock of arrival. North Vietnam consolidates its prisoners because 6 helicopters prove no camp is safe. That consolidation saves lives, reduces abuse, and enables communication. The production miracle scales beyond the target. 56 men change outcomes for 591. Not by extraction, but by demonstration. Not by success, but by capability. The impossible became routine, and routine became deterrence. Rotor wash, not rescue, decided everything. The raid that found no one protected everyone, no POWs freed, every POW's fate changed.